afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Securing the Future, How AI and Cybersecurity Education Drive Excellence and Student Success. I'm Jennifer Kim, Cyber Infrastructure Engineer with MSCC. So just a little bit about today. So higher education institutions face dual imperatives: modernizing technology infrastructure for institutional resilience, while preparing students for an evolving digital workforce. Learn how to address these challenges through AI-enabled digital transformation and hands-on cybersecurity education. All right, I'm joined here today by my colleagues Deanne and Chandra. First, I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves with their organization, role, and if you could provide a brief mention of your involvement in student programming. So Deanne.
Sure. Slide up. So I'm Dr. Deanne Wesley, and I'm with North Carolina Central University, where I am the Director of Cybersecurity, and I oversee the Cybersecurity Lab at North Carolina Central. What you're seeing is a picture of our Cybersecurity Center. Our Cybersecurity Center was designated by the National Security Agency for certified cybersecurity institution for cyber defense. We do a lot of peer-to-peer with high school students, community college students in our cybersecurity center, as well as a lot of hackathons, and I'll talk more to that. Thank you, and I'm happy to be here with you today.
All right, Chandra.
Well, I'm Chandragupta. I'm the Interim Chief Information Officer for Bowie State University. Bowie State is located in Bowie, Maryland. We are one of the first and one of the oldest HBCUs as well in the state of Maryland. Bowie is a high research institution, very close to becoming an R2 as well. And we have been also designated as part of national defense education, cybersecurity education programs, and all types of high-performing research that are getting funded from NSF and DOW as well. My involvement with student engagement and student experience is pretty deep because I and our provost work very closely together in terms of programmatic aspects, in terms of developing new programs, cybersecurity lab as a hands-on experiential learning. A lot of it will go into in our further conversations. But the one aspect I do want to also balance out is where does security, the programmatic aspect of security to developing the future generations and the future career growth and infrastructure, where do they all converge together? So that is something that we'll talk about as well today.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the, I think the big things that we are going to talk about is hands-on related activities. So from each of you, what does effective hands-on AI and cybersecurity education actually look like in practice? And how does it differ from traditional lecture-based approaches?
I think I'll start. So when we talk about lecture, we're just standing up and we are lecturing from the text. But it differs now in that we are using hands-on activities. One activity that I use with my cybersecurity students is, I'll take, for example, this past semester in an ethical hacking class that I teach. The first day of class when they came in, instead of going over all the content for chapter 1, I said to them, today we're going to do an exercise with AI Assist. And what I want you to do is go to your cell phones, wherever you have a picture of yourself. I want you to upload that picture to your favorite AI. And I said, don't tell me you don't have it. No, all you have some kind of AI. I said, so upload a picture of your choice. I want you to tell the AI to create a picture of you as whatever your goal is to be once you graduate from the cybersecurity program. So I said, if you don't know what that is, the first thing we're going to do is look at identity. So you're going to ask the AI to give you all the career titles in the field of cybersecurity. So they did that first. I said, once you find those, pick one that you're interested in, and then ask the AI for the roles, the title, the pay, and then place your picture in that particular role. I said, and then I want you to come back to me and I want you to give me the prompt you asked the AI, give me all the responses, and then I want to see how you've changed that to finish this project. And then I want you to come to the front of the class, and I want you to present that information to the class. So of course, that class always has at least 15 or more students in it, so we couldn't get through it the whole hour, but everybody knew we got through some of them, and then we took the next session. But what that did was it introduced them to AI if they haven't used it responsibly. It added some critical thinking to that. We did some identity management first, because if you didn't know what career field you wanted to go into, now you had a whole list. You could pick from that list. And then we went on and added to that for another assignment. Okay, now that you know what career field you may be interested in, now go to these sites using AI Assist and tell me if that criteria meets everything you've had. So the credentials, what credentials did you need? What certifications do you need? What skills do you need? And does that meet the criteria for that job you aspire to obtain, right? And so using those type of assignments, and then the requirement in the ethical hacking cast is we have to do one hackathon. So we have to go to one and compete. And so those kinds of added learning modules help the students. So now you're not just lecturing, now they're doing. So I think that's the difference. Thank you.
That's a really great example, Deanne. And I think my short answer to a really intense question here would be, effective hands-on education in this day and age is more about experiential learning, right? So this is not about just go through your textbook and you get tested on what you learn from there. It's about knowing how you apply, but I think it's even going beyond knowing how you apply. It's about knowing when to take what judgment calls, so on and so forth. Just as a show of hands, how many here have heard about cloud mythos? Okay. So cloud mythos is something that is not fully available to everyone, and there is very strong reason as to why it's not available. It's not available because it can pretty much think on itself. It can be offensive. It is a very highly defensive, very strong cognitive reasoning capabilities built into it from Claude. This is the next iteration of Cloud Opus, right? If you think about it from a LLM perspective. But one of the reasons Cloud Mythos is not available across the board is because there aren't enough guardrails. So when you are getting students to go through these programs, they have to understand that what you have learned today may be obsolete tomorrow, quite literally. And I don't mean to say that as a figurative part. It's quite literally what you have learned today might be obsolete tomorrow. Because if you think about it, when we started talking about ChatGPT, it wasn't like decades back. It was just a couple of years back. And today we are talking about not turning on certain generative artificial intelligence capabilities because they're far more advanced and we are not able to catch up with those guardrails. My point in all of this being, which is actually highlighted and supported by the top 2 categories in EDUCAUSE, right? Like the EDUCAUSE releases the top 10, and this year it is, first one is collaborative cybersecurity, right? Collaborative cybersecurity being that everyone at an institution has a shared responsibility for cybersecurity. Now, how many in this group have heard about the recent Canvas hack and how that had impacted? So we all know, right? Was it your institution? No. It was a service that your institution was using. So it has become a shared responsibility now, and we have to get to work with that shared responsibility going forward. The second aspect for this experiential learning piece is also related to AI, the human edge in AI, right? So that's the second part from EDUCAUSE, which they have very thoughtfully thought through, and they said, it's not an algorithm that is going to determine the impact of AI. It's humans that are going to determine the impact of AI, right? So as an example, in our cyber defense and cyber development programs, what we have are certain exercises that you have to develop, certain small language models, certain large language models, but then how are you going to test them? How are you going to make sure these are real-world scenarios that you can test? And that's where some of these real-world scenarios and exposure to those comes into play. But unfortunately, a lot of those do require very strong guardrails. So bottom line is, I think experiential learning is the way to go in terms of getting first-hand exposure. But 9 out of 10 times, the first time you are addressing an incident response is going to be a significant learning curve for anyone, right? You could have been doing this and studying this for 20 years, but in the field when you're doing incident response, that's going to be looking very differently.
Thank you. So, yeah, now that we've talked about the importance of the hands-on aspect of it, can you tell us a little bit about what evidence you've seen that applied AI in cybersecurity education actually improves student confidence, retention, or career readiness?
I can probably take the first part on this one. So one of the things I do want to mention, and I did write up my notes, so I'm going to look at my screen and talk here a little bit, is to know that Bowie State University has been designated as a National Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense Education. That designation comes since 2009, and it was given by NSA and DHS. We also have certain experiential programs, certain scholarships that are sponsored through NSA, and we have programs that we have received grants for, and some of you may know Dr. Rosemary Shumba, who had received $1 million grant from NSF to basically establish a high-performance computing lab that focuses on cybersecurity. Now, let me give you 2 metrics. Since the time we have been putting cybersecurity education and so on and so forth, one metric I'll share here is we have seen our success platforms have increased our pass rates for students by 5.9%. At the same time, there has been a reduction of failure due to non-attendance by 27%. This is because of the types of systems that are advanced, autonomous, AI-based with a human element that have been put in place. But these are not specific metrics to those systems. If you think about the 2 metrics I shared, those are actually institutional metrics. Those are not technological metrics that we would be putting out and sharing across the board. The other piece I would mention is and you can pick whichever analogy you want to pick in terms of the proof is in the pudding or so on and so forth. But realistically, how do you know your programs are working? You know your programs are working when you see your students going and joining and getting placed in those organizations. After we have had these programs successfully in place, we have had successful Bowie State alumni join Google, Microsoft, IBM, Amazon, Booz Allen, Lockheed Martin, US Naval Defense Laboratories. These are all organizations that have high technological research going on and high technological application of that research going on. So for a student to graduate from Bowie through an experiential program like that and to keep up in these real-world scenarios is what we would measure up against, right? So you have to be successful not just at Bowie, you have to be successful once you leave Bowie and you join these larger organizations. The last piece I would add here is we heavily also try to map back to the NICE framework. How many here are familiar with NICE?
No.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about putting together programs, think about the NIST NICE framework, so National Initiative for Cyber Education framework. This helps you map your tasks, your skills, your outcomes back to a very standardized approach, which is developed by the National Institute of Standards as well.
Absolutely. So as I said, we are also a Center of Academic Excellence in Cybersecurity, and we were designated in 2010. And with that designation, every 5 years you have to be redesignated, right? So we've been redesignated once, and our next redesignation is coming up. When you are redesignated, you have to ensure that your curriculum is meeting those standards for the National Security Agency, and it has to be mapped to the NIST NICE framework, meaning that you have established work roles so that, and your established curriculum so that when your students graduate, they can actually have a job. With not only that, when the students are graduating from a Center of Academic Excellence, they not only get their credential, but they also get a certificate from the NSA stating that they graduated from a Center of Academic Excellence. With that comes some scholarship monies. We can apply for scholarships monies. We've gotten lots of scholarships over the last year that helps our students get through school. We offer those to our students. On top of that, when we're looking at measuring success, we offer certifications. So a student in our technologies program can take as many industry certifications as they like, as long as they're passing them. So let's say they want after they take, and so our curriculum is mapped to the objectives of the industry certification as well. So when they take the Intro to Cyber class, it maps to the Security Plus Industry Certification exam. And they don't pay for the exam. We provide the voucher for that exam, so we pay for it, meaning the college. If they pass that, they come back with the proof that they pass, then they're allowed to take either the Network Plus, the CCNA, or the N+. And they can continue that as long as they pass it and show us, that, so they can leave the college with their credential, 1 or 2 industry certifications. Not only that, we map success because every student in our program must do an internship during their 4-year program. We have an 80% rate of students getting internships during their 4 years, and when they graduate, 90% of our students have an offer letter in their hand before they walk across our stage. This, just 2 weeks ago, our students graduated. We had 10 students graduate from the Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber. All 10 had employer letters where they were going, and Dell is hiring them, Red Hat is hiring them, Cisco Systems are hiring them, Lenovo, and we have a new company in our area called Millennium Print, and they do everything. They do programming, networking, cyber, and even for the first year, we have a student that's working at the crime scene investigations for the government. And we have students that have jobs at DOD already. So that statistic is telling us that what we're doing in the classroom, and we're not doing it by ourselves. We have partners that's giving us the vouchers, and we're paying for partners that are giving us discounts on vouchers. We have industry that come in and speak to our students all year. We have the job fairs. All of those things make that program work and give students those skills. So we're seeing that. And also, you asked the questions about how do we know that the last part of that question, I think competitions help with that. Our students compete twice a year in different industry competitions. There's one called ADMI. Are you guys familiar with the ADMI conference? It's for HBCUs specifically, and they move every year. But our students compete in that, and they've competed in there for the last 4 years. The first year we competed, they came in third place. The second year we competed, they came in second place. The third year we completed, we came first place. And this year, we came in second place again. And we're competing with Spelman, Morehouse, all the big ones. Clafton has a team, and all the HBCUs. And so I think what that does is build confidence. They're like, really, I really can do this. It also builds teamwork, because now they're working with other schools, other students at other schools, their team, and they have to work together to get the points on the board, to hack in. And so I think all of those things help them be successful, and they've been very successful as they leave our college. Like I said, they all have offer letters. So I think that makes
I just wanted to
Go
add
ahead.
something real quick. You mentioned hackathons
Yes.
and the cyber war games and things like that. Those we would consider are the activities that actually bring students much more closer to real life experience.
You're absolutely right.
So, because the one thing that you will notice, and when our teams participate in these types of engagements and activities, the students have the ability to be very creative. They can go and take their reasoning outside of the classroom, and that is only possible in these kinds of hackathons, where it's an open box environment where you can actually go and achieve some of those things.
Absolutely, absolutely correct.
Yes, thank you. So I want to move a little bit from talking about programmatic activities to looking at the institution itself. So how can higher education simultaneously modernize its technology infrastructure and redesign instruction to ensure that AI and cybersecurity education directly support student success and workforce readiness, like you've just mentioned? So if there are other institutions that want to do something similar, how can they move to that?
I think I'll take it. You want to take it
Yeah,
first?
go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to take our institution because we're in the process of doing all that. And so I think you have to bring the top management to down. I mean, you have to have someone in every level and create this team, if you will, to talk about what we need. And IT has to be involved in that, because IT, they inherently just shut everything down. And by right, because they don't want adware in, they don't want viruses, and a lot of things we're teaching our students at our college are a lot of the tools that they use to keep us safe every day, right? And so they have to be involved so they know, and in fact, they have to be involved so they can say what they need so students can be successful. And students have to use the tools that are in industry, and our partners say that this is the skill they need. And so all those people need to get together and talk about how we can release it a little, so you can do, faculty, what you need to do, tools you can use to train students, and also management has to have the piece so they can say, yes, we have budget. But with AI, I think the other piece is you need an AI policy. And right now, we have a committee building an AI policy, but until they get that ready, we are putting an AI policy in our individual coursework. And I think that's a disservice, because we need a holistic approach. And so I think that we need that policy in place. Everyone needs to know what that means, and that means even our adjunct. A lot of the schools have a lot more adjunct than you have full-time faculty. We're training our full-time faculty once a year with all the different trainings on how to secure our network. And in my opinion, it needs to be more than once a year so faculty can remember what to do, but also we need to train all the people, all the staff, all the adjuncts. Even if you have a part-time person working, all of the people need to be trained on how to keep security, how to keep things safe. Because if we don't, and we bring AI into the mix, we're going to have a disaster. So with that, I think we need the policy. Then we need the conversations with everyone. And then we need the trainings, and then specify how long we need the trainings. And if we need new infrastructure, then that infrastructure should be led by IT, and then our management needs to support it, the resources.
I'm going to take a slightly different tack to responding to that. I think this is a question that really separates institutions that are performing to transforming, right? So those institutions that are transforming take a very different approach than those institutions that are just pouring money into buying more technology. There is a very clear line that we draw there. Now, the other side of it is you need cultural agility. If you don't have cultural agility within your organization, you're just pouring money into buying more technology. And most organizations, most institutions, if you go back and check your portfolio, you probably will find for your ERP as an example, or your HCM, you're probably using 60 to 70% of its capabilities, but you're paying for 100% of that. But then you have other solutions that do the same thing. And now you have AI in all of those other solutions as well. So where does that fit in? All of this to basically say that an organization as a university or an institution has to be ready from an infrastructure standpoint to be able to take on and handle cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. I'll give this to you as an example. At Bowie State University, we have 2 high-performance clusters. The infrastructure on which those clusters sit is outdated. As a result, the researchers are not able to fully leverage those high-performance clusters. So the conundrum here is you have to upgrade that infrastructure. It's going to cost you millions of dollars to do that. You have to re-architect it because it was not built for that purpose. So what is happening here is a bit of a trade-off, but I think what this has done is it has opened the conversation to say, are we positioned right now to take on what's coming up in the future? And this is actually giving us the ability as an institution to think and say, let's upgrade the infrastructure so that we are ready for what's coming next. Most organizations, even in the example of the mythos that I gave you, are all grappling with that basic infrastructure. It's about your Wi-Fi, it's about your network infrastructure, it's about students being able to develop these programs in a sandbox. Those kinds of capabilities are required for organizations today to have in place if you really want to leverage experiential learning. As an example, right now, Bowie State is fully investing in upgrading the entire network infrastructure. We are redoing the entire infrastructure. We are working with different areas. We are basically trying to say, let's separate the research computing environment from the production environment. Put like a research enclave in place so that we can do more research and we can put things in there. But there's a catch to all of this, right? The catch is something like this. A vendor that is giving you a solution that's got AI embedded in it also holds the power to increase the cost of you using that AI. How many here have used a Kindle? And I know I'm kind of carbon dating myself, but still. You remember the days of the Kindle, right?
Yes.
So you could buy a book, you own the book. You could take that book anytime you want and you could read it, right? You got a Kindle, if you don't pay your subscription, what happens to that book?
It gets cut off.
You don't have access to that book. You're paying for subscription costs with AI, say Copilot, Claude, or wherever. If suddenly that cost has significantly gone up, what happens? And I don't know how many of you have kept up on this recent one, but Microsoft decided that it is going to terminate Claude licenses for its own Microsoft's engineers who were using Claude for code development. Just think about it. A giant like Microsoft decided that a big portion of their own software engineers will not have access to cloud coding capabilities. The reason being, it's too expensive. And they need to focus on their own Copilot using GitHub and other things. The reason I give that as an example is these are real-world scenarios that will impact our institutions as well. The more we get embedded, the more we embed AI, the more infrastructure investments we make, we have to be very cognizant of having an exit strategy. Tomorrow, if Microsoft comes and tells me that I'm going to charge $60 per Copilot license instead of what it's charging now, will I be able to afford it? What does that scale look like? I may make a bold statement and say, everyone at Bowie is going to have a Copilot license. What is it going to cost if there is a doubling of per license cost? Which feels nominal today, but it may not be nominal tomorrow. An area where we are seeing that happen is with VMware. The costs have gotten quadrupled, so we are looking for other alternatives. My point in all of this is infrastructure investment is going to be not transferred to someplace else. We have to manage it and have a total cost of ownership for between 6 to 8 years based on the organization institution, and you have to be ready to move away from it within 6 to 8 years. So if you're planning on putting something in today, make sure you're going to brush up that plan 6 years from now, because 8 years from then you will have to get away from it. That's been typically the cycle that we have seen evolve.
Thank you. Lots to think about there. So this next question, I think we already answered it, but I will ask it in the event that you would like to add anything else. How are lab simulations, competitions, and real-world scenarios improving student engagement and mastery in your programs? Again, I think we spoke to that, but anything else to add?
I'm just going to add that there is a lot of industry partners out there that has free courseware, CompTIA, and I think just about all of them. Pearson VUE has one, CompTIA has one, EC Council has AIE component. So everyone has an AI component that you can add to your courseware. One such vendor allowed me, because I wanted our graduates to finish with some AI. And what everything I read said that, you know, if they're graduating now, you need to make sure these students are finishing with some AI. So I decided to do a pilot in my ethical hacking course. We took about 4 weeks of the curriculum and we used AI Essentials, which is a course from EC Council. And that course, if you embed that course, they allowed us to, if the students, you know, went through all the labs, did all the reading, and we did all the kind of simulations in there, they could take the AIE certification and get that, and if they pass, they actually get that certification. So I thought that was a great thing if they could pass and leave there with knowledge in AI as they graduate, and actually had a certification to put on their resumes and take to the employers, those that had letters, to say, now I have this new skill. And so we did that, and 90% of the class received that credential as they walked out the door. We did it in 4 weeks. I wouldn't recommend that because I think the content is too heavy. It should be in an 8-week course. But these students did it. They were seniors and they were trying to get in. And I said to them, I want you to have the AI, but you don't have to pass the certification exam. But everybody said, I want to do it, I want to have it, and 90% of the class passed. The other person that did not take it, she just did not take it at all, so we don't know if she would have passed or not. But so I think that makes, when you have these certification, it makes you more competitive, if you will. And so now you're leaving with 2 certifications, your degree and a certificate from the National Science Foundation, National Security Agency, saying that you graduated from a Center of Academic Excellence. It makes you very competitive out here in the world. And so I think, so I just wanted to add at that and just reiterate, I think that the holistic approach, have your text, know the knowledge, have some hands-on, have an internship, equals employment. And our students are not graduating making $40,000, they're making $60,000 or more to walk out the door. So I just wanted to add.
Sure, thank you.
I just wanted to mention that some of you may be aware of this metric, but there's about a little over 500,000 cybersecurity positions that are unfilled in the United States. So a little over 500,000. 10% of those today require that you have AI fluency or AI-related knowledge and capabilities. So that is today. And that percentage is just going to keep changing as we go along, and it's going to keep going up. So one of the key things for us to think about also is, as our graduates graduate and then they go into the workforce, what are the companies looking for?
That's right.
So mapping that back and bridging between what the market is looking for and what are we teaching, training, educating our students with is a very solid bridge that has to be built. And it has to be very dynamically built as well. This is where the cultural agility of the institution comes in, right? So the prior approach of how you would establish a program and execute on a program requires a lot more agility today to keep up with the pace of change in the market. So that's an area of wide opportunity for almost every institution that we see.
And I just want to add to that, and what we do, we have an advisory board for cybersecurity, and then we have another advisory board for computer information systems. And what we normally do when we refresh our curriculum, because being a part of Center of Academic Excellence, you need to be refreshing your curriculum and being up to date with cyber trends. And so we asked them, and they all come from different companies. And so we said, what are you seeing with AI? What skills you need? So we've done that with our advisory board. So we had a survey done, and we have that information. And we took that information to go back and build an AI curriculum. And so once we built that curriculum, we gave it back to them, say, these are the courses we're thinking of putting in our curriculum. What's your thoughts on that? And they gave us feedback. We also did that with our industry partners, so we can tap out those that's hiring our students. We ask them for the same thing. So that's how we keep our curriculum current, and we know what kinds of things to add. But no institution wants to be teaching exactly what this one employer says students need, right? We don't want to be beholden to that. So you have to take all of that with a grain of salt, talk to faculty about it, talk to a number of people. So I just wanted to put that out there. You're not just going to, those people that's hiring your students. You want to take a broader look at that and see what the institution can. But we do all of those things before we change our curriculum. Now, based on what they told us, we were going to have a whole AI program this fall, but we decided not to do that. We went in a different direction. We built a beginning AI course, but then we've added, so we have a master's in cybersecurity, we have a bachelor's of science with a concentration in cybersecurity. That's the one that's been designated by the NSF, but we have just built a bachelor's of science with a major in cybersecurity, and with that major, we've added 3 different AI classes, right? And so, and that was based on all the feedback and different things, and that will hopefully be approved by the board, and we'll be able to offer it in January.
All right, thank you. So we are quickly running out of time, but that was a perfect segue into our last, I'm going to jump to the last question here to talk about industry partnerships a little bit. So Deanne, you already spoke to this, but how are industry partnerships shaping curriculum design to ensure students graduate with workforce-aligned competencies? So you did kind of speak to that already, how it's shaping that, but not necessarily defining completely. Is there anything else to add to that? And I want to give Chandra a chance as well.
So, like I said, we have the board, we have our industry partners, and we bring them in for forums once a year, and we talk about what's different in the industry, how is AI driving your industry, What are the things we need to look out for? How are you securing your AI bots? A lot of our partners give us, like IBM is a partner of ours, and so they give us their IBM curriculum for college students free. And so we talk about how we're using that in our courses. And so when we do all of that, we think we are aligning with industry. Sometimes we just send a blank survey out to all the industry in our area. And we just ask for feedback. We tell them about us. We tell them we're a center. We're doing this because we're trying to make sure our students lead with the skills that industry needs. These are the kinds of things we're doing. We're just asking so we can find out how to do things better. And that's worked for us. And we've got some great ideas. We even had people come and say, hey, the next event you give, we give an IT cybersecurity symposium every year. The next event, can we come and can we talk to your students? Can we hire your students? Can we have internships for your students? So that works for us. And I think it's a good best practice. And I think that's it.
Last minute.
Yep, so I'll drop it down to 3 things that you should think about. First is make sure you have private representation on your boards. So for each of our programs, for each of our foundational aspects, for example, I work directly with our Vice President for Philanthropy, right? So we have engagements with IBM, who has board membership on top of some of the programs that we have, Adobe, so on and so forth. So just make sure you have those industry representation on those boards, because that actually drives a lot of this ideation and influence. The second part, which I know we haven't really touched on this, so I'll be very quick, is governance. Governance is extremely important at the organization because that is the vehicle through which you're going to be able to manage AI. That's one thing that provosts, CIOs, presidents, CFOs, everyone's grappling with. You're not able to manage AI. Governance is the vehicle. Governance requires structure, and structure requires leadership. That takes me to the third aspect, which is making sure that there is AI fluency and literacy across your organization. So as an example, at Bowie State, the president basically said, and the vice president, so President Bro and Vice President Kumar basically said, we want everyone at the cabinet to be trained on using AI. It's a blanket statement. I mean, I didn't get trained on this part of AI, that part of AI. No. We want everyone trained on AI. We want everyone to have a sandbox. We want to make sure everyone is able to know what's going to happen and how they can use AI. That is at the cabinet level. Then we took it down up to the deans and the department chairs. Then we took it down to the faculty development program, staff development program. All of this is important because unless you have that AI fluency at a basic level, your governance structure will not be able to prevail because it won't make sense to a large extent, right? So those are 3 things that would be essential in order for you to be able to sustain some of the things that you're trying to do.
All right, thank you. So unfortunately, we do not have time for questions, but feel free to find any of us throughout the rest of the conference and ask any questions that you may have. Round of applause for the panelists.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.